Marcus was 14 years old when his mother looked at him with eyes that said she did not love him anymore. It was not a loud moment. It was not a big fight. It was just a quiet Tuesday evening when she stood in the kitchen and told him to leave. He did not scream. He did not cry. He just nodded his head and started to pack because somehow, deep inside, he already knew this day was coming. The house was cold that night. The heating system was broken, and his stepfather Dale did not want to spend money to fix it. Marcus sat in his room, wearing all his clothes at once to stay warm. He could hear Dale downstairs talking to his mother about money, about bills, about how expensive it was to have 3 people in the house. Marcus understood what that meant. He was the extra person. He was the cost. He was the problem. Dale worked at a factory 15 kilometers away. He came home angry most days because his boss was rude to him, because his job paid too little money, because his life was not what he wanted it to be. He took this anger out on everyone around him, especially on Marcus. Dale was not his real father. Marcus's real father left when he was 4 years old, and now he lived in another city with another family. So when Dale said Marcus had to go, there was nobody to say no. There was nobody to protect him. His mother's name was Jennifer. She was tired. That was the thing Marcus noticed most about her. She was tired all the time, working at a shop where she stood on her feet for 8 hours, then coming home to cook food and clean the house and listen to Dale complain. She had stopped smiling years ago. She had stopped playing games with Marcus. She had stopped being his mother in all the ways that mattered, even though she still gave birth to him. When she told him to pack his things, she was just tired. That was the only reason. Marcus filled a black garbage bag with the things he could carry. A book his real father gave him when he was 8 years old. A blue hoodie with a hole in the right sleeve. 3 pairs of socks. A photograph of his grandmother, who died 2 years ago. 200 rupees in coins that he had saved from doing small jobs for neighbors. A notebook where he wrote things that nobody ever read. These were all his things in the world. Everything he owned fit inside one garbage bag. It was 9 o'clock when Dale told him to leave. It was September, and the night was already getting cold. Marcus walked out of the house without looking back, because he knew if he looked back, he would break. Outside, the street was empty. Most people were inside watching television or eating dinner with their families. Marcus walked and walked, not knowing where he was going, just moving forward, because moving forward was all he could do. He was hungry. He was cold. His feet hurt because he was wearing the same shoes he wore to school, and they were made for sitting in a classroom, not for walking for hours and hours. By midnight, he was on the edge of the city, where the houses became smaller and the spaces between them became bigger. The streets became empty. The lights from houses became rare. That was when he found the broken fence. It was not a fence that somebody was using anymore. It was a fence that had given up years ago, leaning at an angle that made it look tired. Marcus was about to keep walking when he heard the sound. It was not a loud sound. It was just a small sound, like something moving very slowly in the darkness. He stopped and looked over the broken fence, and that was when he saw it. There was a horse. The horse was standing in a fenced area behind the old fence, and the horse was very, very thin. Marcus could see the shape of its bones under its skin. The horse's hair was dirty and matted. Its head was hanging down like it was too heavy to hold up. And there was a chain. A metal chain attached to the horse's leg, connecting the horse to a metal post in the ground. Marcus had never seen a horse this close before. He lived in the city. He went to school and came home and sat in his room. He did not know about farms or animals or ranch work, but he knew what he was seeing, and what he was seeing was wrong. The horse did not move. The horse just stood there like it had been standing there forever, not moving, not trying to escape, just existing in the darkness and the cold. Marcus felt something twist in his chest. He felt something break inside him that was already broken. He climbed over the fence. It was so broken that it was easy to climb. He walked slowly toward the horse, and the horse lifted its head and looked at him. The horse's eyes were dark and empty, like the eyes of someone who had given up hope a long time ago. "It is okay," Marcus said softly. He did not know why he was talking. The horse could not understand words, but he kept talking anyway. "It is okay. It is okay." He said it like he was telling himself, not the horse. "It is okay." The horse did not move away. The horse did not seem afraid. The horse just looked at Marcus with those dark, empty eyes, and Marcus looked back at the horse, and in that moment, something happened that neither of them could have predicted. Marcus realized that he was not alone, and the horse realized that someone was looking at it. Someone was seeing it. Someone cared that it was suffering. Marcus sat down in the dirt next to the horse. He had nowhere else to go. The horse had nowhere else to go. They were both alone in the darkness. They were both forgotten. They were both broken. And somehow that made them the same. Somehow that made them not so alone anymore. He did not know it yet, but Marcus had just found the only family he would ever really have. The chain that held the horse to the metal post was the same chain that had held Marcus for his whole life. And that night, sitting in the darkness next to a broken horse on an abandoned piece of land, Marcus made a promise. He was going to stay. He was not going to leave. He was going to help this horse. He was going to help himself. Everything was about to change. Marcus woke up when the sun came up. His body was cold and his bones hurt. He had slept sitting against the fence post with his back against the hard wood, and his neck was stiff in a way that made him remember his body was still young enough to suffer from sleeping on the ground. He opened his eyes, and for a moment he did not remember where he was. Then he saw the horse, and everything came back to him. The house, Dale's voice, his mother's face, the garbage bag with everything he owned. The horse was still standing in the same place where it had been standing all night. It had not moved. Marcus wondered if the horse ever moved at all, or if it just stood there all day and all night, waiting for something that was never going to come. The sun was coming up slowly, turning the sky from black to purple to orange, and in this new light, Marcus could see the horse much better than he could see it in the darkness. The horse was worse than he thought. There were marks on its body, long marks, marks that looked like something had cut the skin. The horse's legs were shaking a little bit, like the animal was cold or tired or in pain. The chain around the horse's leg was thick metal, and the skin underneath it was raw and red and ugly. Marcus felt angry looking at it. He felt angry at whoever had done this to an animal that could not fight back. Marcus's stomach was empty and hurting. He had not eaten since the day before at school. He had a lunch that his mother packed for him, but he left it on the table when he walked out of the house. He was thinking about food when he heard a sound. A human sound. A voice. "Who are you?" Marcus jumped up so fast that his head felt dizzy. Standing about 20 meters away was an old man. He was very old, maybe 70 or 80 years old, and he was looking at Marcus with angry eyes. The man had a stick in his hand, not a walking stick, but a stick that he was holding like a weapon. Marcus's heart started beating very fast. "I was just looking at the horse," Marcus said. His voice came out smaller than he wanted it to. "This is my property," the old man said. His name was Rayesh, though Marcus did not know that yet. "You cannot just come here and sleep on my property." "I am sorry," Marcus said. "I did not mean to. I was walking, and I found the fence, and the horse was here, and "That horse is nothing," the old man said. He spat on the ground. "It is worth nothing. It eats, but does not work. It costs me money every day that it is alive. The only reason I keep it is because the paperwork is too much trouble to sell it." Marcus looked at the horse. The horse was looking at him with those same dark eyes from the night before. The horse knew what the old man was saying. Somehow, Marcus was sure that the horse understood every word. "Why is it chained?" Marcus asked. "Because if I do not chain it, it will leave," the old man said. "And if the police find it walking around with no owner, they will come to my house and ask me questions. So I chain it. It eats hay and water. It costs money. Every day it costs me money that I do not want to spend." The old man looked at Marcus differently then. He looked at the garbage bag sitting in the dirt. He looked at Marcus's face, which was dirty and tired. He looked at his clothes, which were the same clothes he was wearing yesterday. "You ran away from home," the old man said. It was not a question. Marcus did not answer. He did not know if it was safe to answer. "I do not care," the old man said. "But you cannot stay here. This is my property. I do not want problems with the police about a boy sleeping on my land. You understand?" Marcus nodded. He picked up his garbage bag. He looked at the horse one more time, and the horse looked at him, and he felt something pull inside his chest, like a rope was tied around his heart and someone was pulling it. "Wait," the old man said. Marcus stopped. The old man went back into the small house that was barely standing. Marcus could see him through the broken windows. When the old man came back, he was carrying something. It was food, leftover food from yesterday, rice and vegetables in a small container. "You look like you have not eaten," the old man said. He put the container on the ground between them. "Eat it, then leave." Marcus picked up the container. His hands were shaking. The rice was cold, but it tasted like the best thing he had ever eaten. He ate it all in less than 2 minutes, while the old man watched him with a look that was not kind, but was not unkind either. "Why did you give this to me?" Marcus asked when the food was gone. The old man did not answer for a long time. He looked at the horse. He looked at Marcus. Then he said something very quietly.
I was 14 once peacefully at her home a long time ago. Blackstone Ranch. Someone gave me food. She was surrounded by people who loved her. I have never forgotten. She had spent her last decade. So now I give work that mattered to people who have nothing. She had transformed. But that does not mean you can stay here into a place of healing. Marcus said she had saved the lives of hundreds of horses. Back she had changed the way that people in her county thought about animal care and you care about the horse. Today, 20 years after Stella collapsed in the mud, Marcus Blackstone Ranch did not see any reason to lie. The old man was quiet for a very long time. It still cares. He was thinking about something. It still teaches children about the importance of kindness to animals. Like he was fighting the waiting list of people who want to adopt retired horses. The horse has been here is longer than the list of horses. The old man said families come from all over to take home a rescued horse. He said he would come back for it and give that horse, but he never came back. Peaceful life. I kept the horse. Nobody talks much about. I hoped he would come back and pay me money for keeping it alive. There is no information, but he will never come back. Most people just sanctuary have decided that the Marcus did not say anything are less come back tonight than the lives of the animals that he left after dark. Behind. No police watch tree where Stella is. You can stay in the barn. Is now but you have the most visited place. You have to take care of the sanctuary property. You have to clean the barn. Visitors stand in front of Stella's grave. This is not charity. Think about the moment. This is work. Everything changed. Marcus felt something that he had not a horse that could not speak, but whose body told a story that everybody needed to hear. I understand. They think about the people who care enough to listen to that story. The old man nodded and walked back to his house. One horse collapsed. Marcus walked back to the gray Tuesday and put his hand. Everyone blamed the rancher. The horse did not. But the real story was about Marcus felt the warmth of the animal's body. The real story was about and the horse felt the care and Marcus's and the power of one person's commitment. Two broken souls made a promise. The real story was about how survive suffering together. They were going to survive. The real story was about how Marcus came back can change the old man, everything for Rajesh. And that sitting outside his house in a broken chair, lives on in smoking a cigarette that is saved, and looking at the darkness. Every child who learns about kindness he had known for many years. In every person who did not say hello, responsibility. He just pointed at the barn with his finger and went back to looking at the darkness. And something worth living. The barn was falling apart. The roof had holes in it, and when Marcus looked up, he could see stars through the broken wood. The smell inside was very bad. It smelled like animal waste and old hay and things that had been rotting for a long time. Marcus had to cover his mouth with his shirt because the smell was so strong it made his eyes water. There was a shovel in the corner, a bucket, a pitchfork that was rusty and old. There was hay, but not very much. There were tools everywhere, but everything was broken or dirty or both. Marcus stood in the middle of the barn and felt the weight of the work that needed to be done. It was too much. There was too much to clean. The job was impossible. But then he thought about the horse standing outside in the darkness, chained to the ground, waiting. And he thought about his mother's face when she told him to leave. And he thought about how he had nothing else to do and nowhere else to go. So he started to work. He started with the floor. He used the pitchfork to move the old, dirty hay into piles. The hay was mixed with animal waste, and it was heavy and wet and horrible to touch. But Marcus did not stop. He worked for hours, and his hands got blisters and his back hurt, but he kept working. When the old hay was moved, he used a shovel to push the waste outside into a big pile behind the barn. It took him 3 hours. By the time he was finished, his whole body was shaking from being tired. Then he brought new hay inside. There was not much hay, just enough for maybe 3 days for the horse. Marcus spread it out on the clean floor. Then he found a big bucket and filled it with water from the well outside. The water was cold and clean, and it tasted good when he drank some of it. He was very thirsty from working so hard. It was almost midnight when Marcus walked outside to the horse. The horse was standing in the same place, and the chain was still attached to its leg. But now when Marcus came close, the horse lifted its head higher. The horse remembered him. The horse knew that something was different. "I cleaned the barn," Marcus said softly. "For you. Tomorrow you can come inside and sleep where it is warm and dry. And there is hay. Fresh hay. You can eat." The horse did not understand the words, but the horse understood the voice. The horse understood that this boy, this young person, cared about what happened to the horse. The horse had learned to not trust humans a long time ago. Humans were the ones who hit and pull and make pain. But something about this boy was different. Marcus untied the chain. He did not ask permission. He just reached down and opened the metal lock that held the chain to the horse's leg. Rajesh was inside his house, and the night was dark, and Marcus was tired and thinking with his heart instead of his head. He opened the chain, and the horse was free. For a moment, the horse did not move. The horse had been chained for so long that freedom felt like a dangerous thing. The horse did not remember what it meant to walk where it wanted. But then the horse took one step, then another step. Then the horse walked toward the barn where Marcus had cleaned and prepared place. The horse went inside the barn and went directly to the hedge. It started surrounded by people who ate like it had not eaten. She had spent her last decades doing work and maybe it had not. It ate like it was afraid the place of suffering into a place. Marcus sat in the corner of the barn. She had saved the lives of hundreds of horses, and he cried. She had changed the way that because he was tired and sad about animal care. He cried because the horse was eating today and getting stronger. 20 years after Stella collapsed in the mud, it meant that his Stone Ranch sanctuary still operates. The next morning, it still Rajesh came to the barn and saw still cares for old horses. The old man looked still teaches children about the importance of kindness. He looked at the horse eating. The waiting list of people who want to adopt retired horses. Then Rajesh looked is longer than the list of who had fallen asleep in the corner. Families come from all over to take home a rescued horse. Marcus woke up when he heard that horse a peaceful life. You did good work. Nobody talks much about Derek anymore. Better than I expected. There is no information about what happened to him. He was scared that Rajesh had decided that the details of his life are less important. What is wrong with the lives of the animals that he left behind? Why are there marks on the oak tree where Stella is Marcus did not know. Is now he had one most visited place. So he asked Rajesh. The old man sat down slowly on a piece of broken wood. Think about the moment. He looked at the horse for a long time. They think about a horse that could not speak. The horse came here with the owner. His body told a story that everybody. The owner was a man who raced horses. They think about the people who wanted to make the horse enough to listen to that story and do something about it. He used a whip. One horse collapsed in the mud on a gray He only cared about winning races. Everyone blamed the rancher. When the horse got sick, the real story was about what happened next. The owner left. The real story was about courage and redemption, but he was lying. And the power. He did not want it anymore. One person because it was not useful to do the right thing. Marcus felt the real story was about how his body suffering can become a teacher. He looked at the horse. The real story was about how one moment the marks were from the whip. Everything. The thinness was from not enough. And that story, the sadness in the horse's eyes, lives on in every horse that is saved. In every child who learns about Marcus kindness, 2 years, every person who understands that responsibility 2 years of standing in something real spot and something waiting for the owner to come back. Something worth living for. Waiting and waiting and waiting. The horse gave up hope a long time ago. Marcus looked at the horse eating hay, and he understood something. The horse had given up hope, just like Marcus had started to give up hope when he was sleeping outside with a garbage bag. But now they were both here. Now they were both trying again. Now they both had a reason to keep going. I will make the horse strong again, Marcus said. I will feed it and take care of it, and it will learn to not be afraid. Maybe, Rajesh said, but horses remember pain. The horse may never trust again. Some things cannot be fixed. This one can, Marcus said, and he meant it. From that day on, everything changed. Marcus worked every day. He took care of the horse. He cleaned the barn. He brought water and food. And slowly, very slowly, the horse started to heal. The horse started to trust. The horse started to believe that maybe not all humans were bad. And Marcus started to believe that maybe he was worth something after all. 3 months had passed since Marcus came to the barn. 3 months of every day being the same, but also being different. Every morning, Marcus would wake up before the sun came up. His body had learned to sleep lightly, ready to wake at any moment. Every morning, he would walk to the well and bring water for the horse. Every morning, the horse would drink and eat, and every day the horse was getting stronger. The marks on the horse's body were starting to fade. The bones were no longer showing under the skin. The horse's eyes were becoming clearer, brighter, more alive. The horse was starting to run a little bit when Marcus let it out in the small field behind the barn. Before, the horse could only stand. Now it could move. Now it could feel strong again. Marcus had also changed. He was still living in the barn, but now the barn was clean and organized. Rajesh had given him some money for working, very small money, but enough to buy extra hay and some grain for the horse. Marcus's clothes were still old and torn, but they were clean now because he washed them in the well. His face had gotten darker from working outside, and his arms had gotten stronger from all the physical work. But something was wrong. It started as a cough. A small cough from the horse, just 1 or 2 times a day. Marcus did not think it was serious at first. Horses cough sometimes. All animals cough. But then the cough got worse. By the second week, the horse was coughing all the time. In the morning, in the afternoon, at night. The sound was bad, a deep cough that came from inside the horse's chest. Marcus asked Rajesh about it. It is nothing, Rajesh said. The horse has been sick for a long time. It will get better or it will die. There is nothing we can do. But Marcus knew that was not true. The horse was not just sick from before. The horse was getting sick now, getting sicker every day. Something was wrong inside the horse's body, and Marcus did not know how to fix it. He started working harder. He cleaned the barn more carefully. He gave the horse more water. He tried to find better hay, better food, anything that might help. But the horse was not getting better. The horse was getting worse. Then one morning, Marcus woke up and the horse was lying down. The horse never lay down. In the 3 months that Marcus had known it, the horse would stand all day and sleep standing up at night. But on this morning, the horse was lying on its side in the hay, and its body was not moving the way a sleeping horse's body moves. It was not the kind of lying down where an animal rests. It was the kind of lying down where an animal gives up. Marcus ran to the horse and put his hand on its neck. The horse's skin was hot, very hot. The horse was burning with fever. The horse's breathing was fast and struggling. The horse's eyes were half open, but not seeing anything. Marcus started crying. He held the horse's head in his hands and cried like a child, like a 14-year-old boy who had already lost everything and was about to lose the only thing that loved him back. "No," he said. "No, no, no. You cannot do this. You cannot leave me. I just found you. We were supposed to. But the horse could not hear him. The horse was somewhere else, somewhere far away, somewhere that Marcus could not follow. Rajesh came to the barn peacefully at her home what was happening. On Blackstone. The old man's face was. She was surrounded by people who loved her. He looked at the horse. She had spent her last decade, and then he looked at what mattered to her. It is pneumonia. She had transformed a place of suffering. The lungs are full of a place of healing. When horses get saved the lives of hundreds of horses. There is nothing a person like the way that people in her county. There is nothing a boy like you animal care and animal responsibility. Marcus said. Today, there has to be 20 years after Stella collapsed in the mud. There's a veterinarian in the ranch sanctuary still. Rajesh said slowly. It still rescues horses. But he costs money. It still cares for a lot of horses. Money that I do not have. It still teaches children about the importance of kindness to animals. Marcus looked at Rajesh. The waiting list of people who want to adopt maybe 2,000 rupees is longer than the list of horses available. It depends on how sick the horse is. All over to take Marcus had saved maybe 300 rupees in the 3 months he had worked. Nobody talks much about Derek. He was nowhere near enough. He never came back. He would need to work. There is no information about what happened to save that much money. Most people at the sanctuary, but the horse did not have many more months. The details of his life, the horse did not have many more days than the lives of Marcus stood up left behind and started walking. The oak tree where Stella is buried, where are you going? Is now the most visited place to get the money. Sanctuary. Marcus said. Visitors stand in front of Stella's grave. There is no work in this area. Think about the moment. No one will hire a boy with no school certificate. They think about a horse that could not speak, no family, but whose body told a story that Marcus was already walking. He did not know where he was going, cared enough he was going to listen to that story. He just knew that he had to try about it. He could not let the horse collapse in the mud. He could not lose another thing that he loved. Everyone walked into the town, the rancher, and he went to the shops. The real story was about what happened. Boxes. The real story was about courage. He asked if they needed redemption. Most people said no. Some people looked at him like he was dirt, to do the right thing, like a homeless boy. The real story was about how but the fourth shop can become a teacher. A man who owned a vegetable store. The real story was about how he could work for one day, can change everything forever. And that story, Stella's story, Marcus on every horse without saved, in every child who learns about drink water, in every person who understands that responsibility, his hands were bleeding real, rough work, something important, and his body was screaming with living for. But he had 200 rupees. He worked the next day at another shop, and the next day at another place. Every day, he was getting more money. Every night, he came back to the barn to check on the horse. The horse was still lying down. The horse was still burning with fever, but the horse was still alive. After 5 days, Marcus had 900 rupees. He needed more. He needed almost 1,100 more rupees. On the 6th day, something happened that Marcus did not expect. A woman came to the barn. She was not from the village. She was wearing nice clothes and driving a nice car. She was looking for Rajesh because Rajesh had worked for her family a long time ago, and she wanted to find him. She found Marcus instead, and she found the horse lying sick in the barn. She asked questions. Marcus told her the truth. He told her about finding the horse. He told her about 3 months of work. He told her about the fever and the pneumonia and the veterinarian who wanted 2,000 rupees. The woman was quiet for a very long time. Then she said something that changed everything. "I will pay for the veterinarian," she said. "But you have to promise me something. You have to promise that you will never give up on that horse. Promise me." Marcus promised. The woman took him to the veterinarian that same day. The veterinarian came to the barn with medicine and equipment. He checked the horse carefully. He said the horse was very sick, but the horse was also very strong. The horse wanted to live. That was why it was still alive. The veterinarian gave the horse medicine. He came back every day for 1 week. And slowly, very slowly, the horse started to get better. The fever went down. The cough became less. The horse started to lift its head. The horse started to eat again. Marcus stayed with the horse the whole time. He did not leave the barn. He talked to the horse. He told the horse stories about his life before. He told the horse that they were going to survive together. And they did. 6 months after the fever, the horse was completely different. The animal was healthy now, strong, with a shiny coat that reflected the sunlight like dark water. The horse's eyes were bright and alive, full of trust and peace. When Marcus walked into the barn in the morning, the horse would come to him and rest its head on his shoulder. This was the horse's way of saying thank you. This was the horse's way of saying love. Marcus was also different. He was 15 years old now, but he looked older because of the work and the worry and the responsibility he had carried. His shoulders were wider. His face was harder but also kinder. His hands were strong and covered with small cuts and calluses from months of work. He looked like a person who had lived through something difficult and come out the other side. The woman who had paid for the veterinarian came back to the barn one day. Her name was Priya, and she was a teacher at the school in the nearby town. She came because she could not stop thinking about the boy and the horse. She could not stop thinking about how much love Marcus had shown to an animal that nobody else cared about. "What is the horse's name?" Priya asked Marcus. Marcus had never thought about this. The horse was just the horse. But now, thinking about it, he knew exactly what the name should be. "Hope," Marcus said. "His name is Hope." Priya smiled. It was a real smile, the kind of smile that shows that a person understands something important. "That is the perfect name," she said. "And what about you, Marcus? What do you want to do with your life?" Marcus did not know how to answer. Nobody had ever asked him that question before. People told him what to do. His mother told him to leave. Dale told him to disappear. but nobody had ever asked him what he wanted. "I want to take care of Hope," Marcus said. "That is all I know right now. That is all I care about." "That is good," Priya said, "but you are young. You have your whole life ahead of you. Do you want to work with horses? Do you want to become a trainer? Do you want to learn more?" Marcus thought about this. He thought about Hope and how the horse had taught him things that no teacher in school had ever taught him. Hope had taught him about patience, about never giving up, about how love is the strongest medicine in the world. Martha died peacefully at her home. "I want to learn on Blackstone. I want to help other horses like Hope." She was surrounded by horses that are hurt and forgotten. She had spent her last decade reached in her bag doing work that took out some papers. She had transformed here to ask if you wanted to come back suffering into a place of healing. "I can help you." She had saved the lives of hundreds of horses. "I can help you study." She had changed the way that people in her county thought about animal care and you can still have a future. Today, Marcus looked at 20 years after Stella collapsed in the mud. He looked at Blackstone Ranch, and for the first time in a very long time, it still rescues horses. That things could be different. It still cares for old horses. It took 1 year, but Marcus still teaches children about the importance of kindness. He studied hard because he was not trying just for himself. The waiting list of people who want to adopt retired horses, every time he wanted to give up, is longer than the list of horses standing in the darkness. Families come from all over to take home, and he would remember that Hope had and give that horse a peaceful life. So Marcus could not give up. Nobody talks much about Derek. Rajesh helped him during. He never came back. The old man no information about what happened to sleep in most people at the sanctuary have decided Rajesh that also details of his life are less important than the lives of the animals. He told them how Marcus had found the oak tree where Stella is buried through hard work, the most visited place. People started to notice sanctuary property. Some people visitors stand in front of Stella's grave and think about the moment everything from Marcus to sleep on. They think about a horse that could not speak just to see the horse whose body told a story that everybody needed to hear. Hope became famous. They think about the people who cared enough to listen to that special in the way racehorses are special. One horse collapsed in the mud something that people wanted to believe in. Everyone Hope represented that broken thing. But the real story was about what happened. That forgotten things can be remembered. The real story was about love, courage, change, redemption, and the power. By the time Marcus was 16 years old, commitment, he had finished school. He had a real story was about good grades, suffering. Priya helped him get into a special program. The real story was about how one moment can change. It was a training program at a veterinary center. And that story, only 30 kilometers away, lives on in but Marcus did not want to leave Hope alone. In every child who learns about kindness, did something unexpected. And every person who understands and her family decided to buy the land means something real. They decided to turn it into a sanctuary for horses that had been hurt or abandoned. They hired Marcus as the main worker, the person in charge of taking care of the horses. They paid him a real salary. They gave him a real room in the house instead of the barn. And they let him bring Hope to the sanctuary as the first and most important horse. On the opening day of the sanctuary, there were about 50 people who came to see it. Local people, people from a city, reporters from newspapers. They came to see the place where broken horses could come to heal. Martha stood next to Hope at her home. Photographers took pictures. She was surrounded wearing a clean blanket, and it's spent her last decade doing Marcus was wearing new clothes that she had transformed a place of suffering. He did not look like a homeless boy a place of healing. He looked like a young man the lives of hundreds of horses. One reporter changed the way that people in her county thought. What do you want to say to people who are watching this animal responsibility? What do you want them to understand? Today, 20 years Marcus thought about this question for a long time. Blackstone, he thought about the night he was kicked out of his home. It still thought about sleeping outside with his garbage. It still cares for old. He thought about finding hope. It still teaches children about. He thought about all the months of hard work and the waiting list of people who want to adopt retired horses. Marcus is longer than the list of. That when you think everything is families come from when you think there's no take home left, rescued when you think you are and give that horse a peaceful life. You might be wrong. Nobody talks much about another broken soul somewhere. He never came back. There is no information about what happened to him. And when you find most people at the sanctuary, you have to hold on to it. That the details of his life, because love is the only thing that lives of the animals that he left behind. And hope is the only oak tree where Stella is buried. Hope moved closer to Marcus' visited place and rested its head on the boy's shoulder. Visitors stand in front of Stella's grave. The photographer think about the moment everything changed. The boy and the horse think about a horse together, standing in the sun, but whose body told a story that everybody needed to hear. That picture appeared in newspapers who cared enough to listen to that story. People read the story of a 14-year-old boy. One horse collapsed in the mud on a found a dying horse in the darkness. Everyone blamed. People read about how he worked, but the real story was about what happened the horse's life. The real story read about how the courage and redemption back and the power of one person's commitment. The sanctuary grew. The real story was about how workers were suffering. Marcus became the head of the sanctuary. The real story was about how one moment can change. He went to school at everything to learn more about horse medicine. And that story, he never gave up. He never stopped working. Every horse and Hope lived for 20 more years. Every child who learns about kindness, healthy, and every person who understands that responsibility. Marcus was with Hope every something real. They had saved each other, and they never separated again. On the day that Hope died, Marcus sat beside the horse and cried. But he did not cry because he was sad about the end. He cried because he was grateful for the beginning. He cried because a horse and a boy had found each other in the darkness, and together they had brought light to many other broken souls. Marcus learned that being kicked out of his home was not the end of his story. It was the beginning. And Hope learned that being abandoned was not the end of its life. It was a new chance to be loved. Two broken souls had become whole, and in becoming whole, they had healed many others. And that is the story of Marcus and Hope, two forgotten creatures who found each other in the darkness and changed everything.